Welcome to the On a Mission Mojo podcast, where I have the pleasure of interviewing impact-driven founders, entrepreneurs, authors, and business experts who are actively working to create a positive difference in our world. I'm your host, Lori Young, a branding specialist, certified master marketer, and a passionate advocate for brands that possess heart, soul, and an unwavering commitment to drive change for humanity. It takes grit, a visionary mindset, and an abundance of mojo to navigate this journey. And the stories I share will undoubtedly ignite your passion. If you're seeking an infusion of inspiration, motivation, and valuable insights to amplify your impact, let's dive right in. Welcome to episode 38 of the On a Mission Mojo podcast. We're going to be talking about something very, very foundational in business, and that is your brand messaging and how we start with that messaging and how that messaging plays out through every aspect of our copy in our business. And I have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Mayra Gomez Sanchez, and she is a launch and sales conversion copywriter and marketing strategist who connects the public to diversity-driven leaders by writing culturally relevant and genuine copy. She believes that authentic marketing to today's diverse public can help bridge the cultural divide we see today, making the realm of marketing as a place where all business owners can come together and create a space of inclusivity for everyone. This was one of the reasons why I reached out to Mayra, because I really appreciate your angle, the approach that you take towards writing copy. So why don't we just start, and you can share with listeners a little bit about your mission in the world.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Lori, and thank you for that great introduction. It's like you don't really know, or you can't really take it in until you hear someone else say it. So It was such a nice feeling to hear you say what I stand for in my business, and I'm just really excited to be here and all of your listeners today. So to start off, my name is Mayra, and I am the founder and CEO of Cultural Visionaries. It's my copywriting and marketing business, and I really wanted to start this business because I was noticing that when a lot of people were getting online, they weren't really feeling connected to what was out there. And the people that are the brands that I did see the opposite from, I noticed the difference was because of their messaging. They were really talking to the people as if it was one person rather than as a whole. And they're really bringing in like specific examples that truly met with the other person on the other side of the screen. So it wasn't so generic as in to say like, this is going to bring you confidence, time, and money, where you see almost everywhere. But it's like, this is like if they knew their target audience wanted to become better public speakers for like maybe a TEDx talk, the copy would they say something along those lines, this is going to help you with your public speaking so that you can get on those TEDx speakers and make impact on the greater community. So that's just that difference in writing that I really noticed, like, wow, these are the brands they get it. And we need more of those brands to showcase themselves, given that they are trying to bring good into the world. And that's where I feel I'm like the liaison between those socially conscious brands and those consumers who want the outcome to be well-being for their happiness and whatever form happiness looks like to them.
Okay. Yes, I agree. Like, it's funny how like magical copywriting can be. It's like you can go to somebody's website or you can read something on their social media, and you can always tell when they're really, really tuned in to their audience, because the words just like draw you in. It's just like, yes, I totally need that. Oh my gosh, yes, that sounds like me. Versus, like you said, that more generic copy where it's like, oh, live the life of your dreams. And it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I want to live the life of my dreams, but what does that really mean? So why don't we just talk a little bit first before we kind of dive into messaging? How did you get into this? Like, where's your story? Like, how did you start writing and know that this is like what you were supposed to be doing?
Yes, great question. Well, I was a elementary teacher before this. I
Okay.
taught first grade for
Mm-hmm.
8 years. Not all 8 years. Some of those years involved kindergarten, second grade, but I was always in that K2 realm, so the primary education. And I really loved being with the students. I loved teaching them, loved seeing that aha moment come out from either their voice or just their facial expressions when it clicked for them. So that
Mm-hmm.
was always really exciting to me. But as the years were passing, I started feeling myself getting a little bit burnt out as each year progressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept pushing it to the side until one day I knew that my mental health was suffering from the burnout. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to make the hard decision to put myself first, given that I was putting others first for so long. So with that hard decision, my next thought was like, okay, well, I know I need to do something else, but what? So I
Yeah.
literally just went on Google and I typed in, what do teachers do after teaching? Something along those lines.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
yeah, so I just went on and I saw that a lot of the answers were copywriting. And at the time, I did not know what that word even meant. And so I just started clicking on things, reading things. I mean, I was a teacher and I think I'm always going to be a teacher, even
Mm-hmm.
to this day, even if it looks differently. So I love to learn. So when I was learning about what a copywriter does, that's when I thought, oh, this sounds interesting, but I was skeptical because once I started understanding, like, oh, these are the words that people read on a screen to encourage them to take an action, the
Right.
first thoughts that came to my head were like, oh, yeah, now I know what that is. And I know those type of emails, and those emails always made me feel pressured or icky and made me
Mm.
just want to close it down. You know, if I saw that, I would just see that vibe come up so much that I'm like, oh, never mind. I thought I wanted to be a copywriter, but once I started reading about it, I was like, never mind. I don't want to be part of that type of marketing.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
but then I guess, with the algorithm and the things you type in, Instagram started sending me ads on a copywriting course that was based on ethical marketing. So I
Mm.
was intrigued with the word ethical. I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
there's another side to this. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can help people get what they want and whatever form of happiness that means to them. But it doesn't have to be done sleazy. They can feel empowered. They can take the action on their own terms. That
Right.
sounds more like me. So I
Mm-hmm.
went into that rabbit hole of that specific course. It's called Write Your Way to Freedom by Sarah Cherner. And
Okay.
I loved everything about that course because not only did she teach in depth on the various types of copy and gave examples and had you try things out. There were coaches that would read your practice copy, give you feedback, but it was always tied back to being ethical. She always
Mm-hmm.
would say, I'm teaching you these things, but use it for good. Don't use it for the other side, because we're here to change how marketing looks in the online world where people feel good about it and not the other way around. So
Yeah.
now I'm
Absolutely.
here.
Okay, that's awesome. I was thinking of something when you were. Oh, I know. One of the copywriters that used to be on my team, she started as a librarian.
Oh, also in the education field.
Exactly. So
I love it.
there must be something about the education field that just like breeds writers, because she was a librarian. Obviously loves reading books. So I think people that are reading a lot of books, they are obviously reading a lot of words, and I think that trains your brain to like be able to write. They always say if you want to become a better writer, be a better reader, right? um
Completely agree. Yes.
yeah.
Now that you say it like that, the lesson plans that I had to read and create, not just when I was a teacher, but even before that, doing my teaching program, there was so much reading to be done, so many questions to ask. And even as a teacher, you're constantly trying to learn and improve and reflect,
Right.
that it kind of just naturally transitioned to copywriting. It's like, oh, wow, I may not be an elementary teacher anymore, but I'm seeing so many similarities between the two professions, mainly being an active listener, because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's like the key to being a great copywriter, is that you need to truly listen to what your client is saying and ask the right questions depending on their responses in
Right.
order to create that in-depth copy that's going to make people be like, yes, I want this.
Right. I love the I love the approach that you take about that you started from like wanting to be an ethical marketer. There's a lot of talk. I think there's a lot of change happening in the industry. What used to be, marketing used to be a very bro focused field where there was a lot of that, scarcity and urgency and all of those bro marketing techniques that were being taught. I think more and more people now are moving towards more authentic, more heart centered, more ethical marketing and socially conscious. I think that is a big like word as well. That's one of the things that I really liked about you is how you focus on culturally relevant copy. Talk to me just a little bit about that, like what it means to be culturally relevant today in our copy.
That's a great question. So I think when a lot of people think of the word culture, their minds naturally go towards someone's ethnic background,
Mm-hmm.
and that is part of it. But there's so much more to that word too, where culture means music, culture means food, culture means the way that you speak, depending on what part of the country you're in or other parts of the country. So
Mm-hmm.
that to me fascinates me because like that is what connects people. So when I talk to my clients, I really go in depth with that questionnaire on culture where I ask like, I get your mission, your values and all of that, but what does your audience like to listen to? Tell me some, maybe like if you could name a podcast that even you think they'd like what is it? Where do they
Mm-hmm.
like to hang out? Like it doesn't have to be like specific like restaurant name, but a genre of restaurants or hangout spots, and that really kind of gives me an overall feel to their clientele. And then from
Mm-hmm.
there, I'm able to do my own market research and see the type of language that's being used in those types of communities, so
Mm-hmm.
that when I write their copy, those golden nuggets of words are embedded in the copy to where people can feel it and be like, oh wow, like not only did they paint a picture where I can picture myself in there, but there
Mm-hmm.
are certain maybe like lingos or slang that I know, that I understand, and I know like why that person is using those terms because they want to truly connect me to what they're offering, whether it be product or service based.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point because I think people do think about, culturally relevant meaning, relevant to X culture, right? But there's so much more in culture. I mean, I just think about like, with the Olympics right now, and this will be outdated by the time this publishes, but like Snoop Dogg is just like such a big part of, the 2024 Olympics this year.
Yes,
And that's a whole culture in itself, right? And I think it's really drawing in um a lot of people who love Snoop Dogg, but also who love just that fun vibe, right? Just that
exactly.
unique, authentic, fun vibe, not so serious, because the Olympics can be very competitive and very intense, but it's like he's bringing like this element of fun to the whole, I think, to the whole competition.
Yes, and I can totally see that with the Olympics and just the people who are striving to make their brands that socially conscious image, not just from the outside but from the inside, where they are noticing like, the life is hard. People are dealing with so many different things. They are looking for something to make them feel good in a healthy manner.
Mm-hmm.
What can my brand bring to them to meet them where they're at with their happiness and their well-being? And of course, those are two generic words, and but I purposely say those two generic words because I would need to, dig in to that ideal target audience to know like, oh, happiness means XYZ to them, or well-being means XYZ to them. So just for the purpose of today's conversation of the general public, of those who are wanting to partner with socially conscious brands, they are looking for something in those realms. So that's when we talk to the client, right? Into like what is specific to happiness and to
Mm-hmm.
well-being.
Yeah. So let's kind of dive into just messaging as a whole, because I think that this is important for people to understand. The first thing that I want to say, and people may disagree, business owners may disagree with me on this, but I have been in the marketing field for a very long time. And I know that copy, unless you are a marketing expert, unless you are a conversion copywriter, unless you are a brand expert, that is something that should be let to the experts. I think so many people try to write their own copy, and unless you're really good at it, it misses the mark. It's just one of those areas to me that's so important to hire an expert in. And so I want to just dive into, like, if you were to work with an expert, like Mayra, for instance, what's the process that we go through first when determining the messaging for a brand?
Yes, I totally agree with you too, Lori, about that aspect that the business owners, they have a zone of genius in whatever they're running, and that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to meet them halfway, I do believe that they should invest in a marketing team, or starting off with a copywriter to help them set the foundation and tone on how that zone of genius can also be felt with the greater community. So
Right.
with that, I definitely start my process with having an onboarding call. So this is after they have signed the contract, paid the first half of the invoice. We get on a 45 to 60-minute call where I ask them a list of questions that really helps me hone in on their brand tone and voice. So it can look like talking about their target audience and the demographics, again, going into their mission and their values, maybe some 3 to 5 words that describes their brand, 3 to 5 words that describe their brand personality. If they have any type of inspiration from other websites or Instagram profiles, LinkedIn profiles, that kind of gives them the feel like, I kind of like how that feel is of that brand, and that inspires me. So that all, just when I put that together, it helps me get a strong foundation when I start writing. And that onboarding call is so important too, because not only am I actively listening to what they have to say, but I get to do that because I'm not on the other side, taking notes, scribbling as quickly as I can. I have my Fathom AI note taker, which records the
I just
call.
recently started using that. And
yes,
I'm like blown away. It's like I had a meeting with a client this morning and I got an email right after it. And it's like the whole transcript, the summary of our meeting. I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I know about this before?
Yes. Oh, it's a lifesaver because I no longer feel nervous on these onboarding calls. I think the nervousness came from, like, I have to listen and take notes at the same time. Can I get it all in? And that was daunting. So
yes,
what a relief with that platform, because the call is recorded. Like you said, there's a transcript at the end of the call. And once that call is over and I'm going to get started with my market research, the first thing I like to do before I do anything else is literally copy paste that whole transcript onto a blank Google document and read through it and bold and highlight anything that stands out to me that goes in terms with the answers that or with the questions I was asking from that questionnaire. And then from there, then I'm able to like go into Facebook groups and Reddit or Instagram comments, anything that resonates from that call, to tie it all together, write the copy for them. And then once that copy is written, I'm able to deliver it to them in a Google document and in a Loom video. So I always let them know, it's very strategic on how I turn it in, because I don't want them to get confused. So I always start in my email, like, here's your copy. Step 1, please watch this Loom video, because it kind of gives you a rundown of what I did, why I did what I did. Step 2, read this copy deck, because it kind of reiterates our initial conversation on what they're wanting, and that kind of just refreshes their mind, like, oh yeah, I did say that of what I'm looking for. And then they read the copy itself on a Google Doc where I have comments on the side if I need to explain something further, and they're able to take it, copy paste it into the back end of whatever platforms they're using. And of course, if they are needing some edits, I'm more than happy to make edits for them until they're happy with the final product.
Okay. I wanted to make a little bit, kind of go deeper on a little something that you talked about. One of the things that you talked about was, the target audience and knowing the demographics of a target audience, right? That is something that people think about. It's, of course, I work with women, ages 25 to 45, or I work with, dads that are, blah, 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 right? And I think that's very important. But I think what's more important is the psychographics of the client avatar. Like, how do they think? How do they feel? What words do they use? What are they really struggling with? What pain points? What are their desires? Their what keeps them up in the middle of the night, right? I think and oftentimes I find when we've worked with clients, they're not always clear on that. And I don't know about you when you go into market research, like I always tell clients, have a conversation with 5 to 10 of your ideal clients and ask them very pointed questions like, what are you struggling with right now? Like, what would make your life amazing right now? Like all of these kind of pointed questions that get them talking. And I think what's most important is to record the words that they're using, because we have a tendency to speak in words that we use, right? Versus words that our ideal clients are using. I'll just give you an example of this. Not too long ago, I was trying on an offer, and it was called the Visibility Accelerator Audit. And I went to one of my past clients who loves me, and I knew that she would give good feedback. And I even thought she would be interested in this offer, right? And I said, hey, what do you think about, what this, about this offer? And, would it be something you'd be interested in doing? And she's like, visibility. You mean like on social media? Right off the bat, I was like, well, that's interesting. Like the word visibility was confusing to her. In my mind, it was 100% crystal clear what visibility means because I'm in marketing, right? For her, like visibility was kind of like, what do you mean by that? Like, why do I need visibility? Right. So I think that's why it's so important to actually hear the words that your ideal clients are using so that you can tailor your content and speak in their language versus your own.
Yes, completely agree. And I think that's where the big part of market research comes in, where it's going deep into these groups and looking at what the words people are using to describe whatever feeling it is. If it's a feeling of happiness, what is causing them to feel that feeling of happiness? And more than likely, they write it down. And that's where, and again, adding to that Google document of market research, that's a separate section where I literally just copy paste those words into 3 columns, where like one column is like, what are the false beliefs that my client's target audience has? And then once I start finding those answers, I just copy paste it in, the second column. What are, like you mentioned, the pains and their desires? Find that and then copy paste it down. And I don't stop copy pasting until I start seeing a pattern within that column. And that's what kind of tells me like, okay, I'm done researching because I'm seeing that pattern. So that is that crucial part that goes in line with what you're saying.
So where do you do your research? Because like I said, I've always instructed clients to kind of go and talk to their ideal clients and actually record meetings. Like if they're not doing that, or if they're not able to do that, maybe they don't even have any ideal clients yet to talk to. Like where can people go to do research?
So that goes back to that first question on target audience, where I asked them like, where do the people say it is like that range of 30 to 45 dads? Like where do those dads in that age range like to hang out online? Is it Facebook groups? What type of Facebook groups? Is it Instagram? What kind of Instagram gurus do they follow? What type of books do they like to read? And I asked those questions not just for the sake of asking, but that helps me to find those words. So like when I ask, for example, what type of book does that dad in that 30 to 45 year range like to read? It's because then I'll go on Amazon, find that book, and look at the reviews of what people have left. And then guess what? They're 30 to 45-year-old dads responding in the reviews, and I'm seeing those golden nuggets of words that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a pain, that's a desire, that's a false belief. And then I copy paste that into that market research where I have those 3 columns set up. So I always tell them, like, look at the groups that you know that where they're going to be hanging out or more likely going to be hanging out, and then find those golden nugget words that are the answers to what is the false belief, what is the pain, what is the desire, where are they at now, where do they want to be. And if you start finding those answers, just start compiling them into a blank Google Doc, and you're building your ideal client avatar like that.
Okay. Any tips on what you do when your ideal client avatar is not really spending time online? And let me give you an example of that. A very high level CEO, for instance, they're not on LinkedIn. They're not like hanging out on Instagram and Facebook. They don't have time for that. Like, how do you find market research on those types of individuals?
So are you saying that that CEO, we're writing to speak to CEOs in general, or I'm pretending like I'm the CEO and I'm trying to find clients that are attracted to my brand? Is it one way versus the other?
We need to speak to CEOs in our copy, but we don't know, like, maybe necessarily like what language they are using. They're not online. Like, if we can't find someone online, if we can't do that research online, like, what's the best approach?
Well, I think given that you know what the CEO stands for from whatever is out there about them, maybe they didn't write it themselves, but it's like a biography, you can kind of get a feel for what they like and what they stand for. Then I would go to the next best thing, where I would start maybe finding coaches who are on the online space that are making close to the figures that that CEO is making, and seeing like if what I read from the autobiography of that CEO, does it connect maybe to this coach I found online, and seeing, and at least starting from there to test it, because that's what the great thing is about copy. Like, yes, you can have the best start to something, but it isn't always the end all be all. There's testing that goes into it. So say I gather that info, and you put it out to the world, and then you start getting feedback, then you start tweaking things too until it gets to the point that it does match that tone of that CEO that you want to reach.
Right. Okay. That makes sense, because there definitely are businesses out there that target CEOs. And so maybe you can't specifically find words that the CEO is using, but maybe you can find successful business owners that are targeting CEOs and kind of look at the words they're using.
Yes, and I have seen that actually come to play in a positive way. For example, when I was doing some client acquisition last month, there was a coach that was making the 6 to 7 figures, and she works with even people who make more than her. So this ripple effect, right? And so I had to decide, like, how can I let this coach know that I am capable of doing copy for her, so that that copy could then reach those CEOs. And I found what has helped, not just with her, but with those type of coaches that I've been attracting, is that when I reach out to them, I find something extremely specific about them, and mostly from like LinkedIn, and I'll see maybe something that they posted recently that they had an opinion on, or an article that they posted, and I'll find a line in there that I also resonate with, because I also want to be genuine when I email them. So if I find a line that they wrote that I also think, oh wow, like that's so true, I will copy paste it, and obviously in a natural way, say, introduce myself and say, hey, I really liked, that, and then put in the quote of what they said because of this reason, and I'm specific on why it attracted me. And then I'm letting them know, like, if you're needing some copy services, here's what I can help you with. If this is in alignment with you, I'd be more than happy to chat further. And that has really gotten responses. And I think it's because they see, like, oh, she is really taking the time to pull language that I have used. Right. And if this is the language I'm using, then this is what's attracting their clients. So it's like this ripple effect.
Yeah. That's cool. I was going to talk about, in terms of attracting, using copy to attract the ideal client. Let's talk a little bit about the importance of knowing who we don't want to attract and how we use that in our copy to make sure that we are not pulling in people that are not an ideal fit for us.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I do that on a daily, because I am on a daily posting on my Instagram platform, on my LinkedIn platform. And I personally, for me, Myra, I like to use Spanglish in my personal copy. So
Okay.
I'll like use majority English, but there are some words that I'll sprinkle in that are in Spanish because that's just naturally how my brain thinks. My brain thinks in two languages. So
Okay.
if I
Okay.
feel it come out naturally in what I want to write, then I'll type it in Spanish. But then I will also put in parentheses the word in English if the word is completely different, because I want my audience who maybe or maybe not be Spanish speakers to still get the gist of what I'm trying to say. But if it's a word that's in Spanish that's very close to English, where I know that the English speaker will understand what I'm saying, like for example, the word experience and experiencia, if I wrote it in Spanish, they would know like, oh, that's experience.
Okay.
So I feel like because I've been writing in that manner from day one on all my platforms and even on my email list, people know like, oh yeah, that's Myra talking, because I don't change it. And I feel that because I've been just me from day one and not trying to be anything I'm not, it resonates with the people that resonate with what I have to say. And it's, I don't know how else to explain it. People that come to me, whether they know Spanish or not, they are brands who want to create good. I can tell they have like this just genuine energy to them. So I can only think that the way I write comes off genuine to them.
Right.
So that speaks to them. So I think that has what's been helping me attract the right people is by just truly being me, knowing that not everyone is going to resonate with how I write, and that's okay. That I'm not here to please everyone. I'm here to do the best I can with the people who do resonate with me, and that's okay with me.
Right. One of the problems I know that I've had in the past, and I've really looked at my copy because there's got to be something with my copy that's pulling in. But because I target very heart-centered business owners, I do attract a lot of heart-centered business owners, which is good, right? That's exactly who I want to work with. But I've also noticed that I have a tendency to pull in business owners that don't have money to invest. And so I'm often asking myself, how do I write copy to attract business owners that have and are willing to invest financially in their business?
Yes, I think with that, I think a lot of service business owners deal with the same issue. I know I do it all the time. So because of that pattern, I also have noticed I started, and not in every piece of copy that I write, but when it comes out naturally, when I write about investing, I notice that a false belief that a lot of people have that I've been attracting, it's like, oh, it's a lot of money and I can't afford that. Or maybe they truly can't, or maybe it's a fear that they have, or they haven't seen a sticker tag at that price and they automatically want to shut down. So I can't change their mind, but
Sure.
the most I can do is write to that. So there are posts where I talk about the difference between thinking of something as a price versus an investment. So I try to use that word invest a lot and say like why that word is so important and how it can benefit them in the long run. So those are some posts that have helped with that. And another false belief that I've seen, in at least in the community I've been serving, is that if you are making a lot of money, you're not a good person, or that you're sleazy. And so I feel like in a lot of the words that I write, again, depending on what type of post I'm creating, I am putting in that the talk about money affirmation. And specifically, there's one affirmation that I resonated with personally that I write at times where it goes along the lines of the more money I make, the more I have to help myself and others. And I feel like that has really helped people see it in a different light of like, oh, I can invest in this. It maybe makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable because I haven't, used my personal money in something like this, but the return of investment that I'm going to get on this, knowing that it's not going to help me, not only going to help me, but then I will have more resources to help my community, and then it's for good, and it's worth it. So again,
Right.
I can't change the person's mind. At the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to do what they're going to want to do. But I feel like the least I can do is speak to those false beliefs and
Mm-hmm.
show in my copy why they're false. But
Right. Absolutely. So, tell us, I guess, what kind of like copy we understand now, like the importance of understanding deeply our target audience, writing in words that resonate with them and that speak to them. Let's talk about all of the different places that copy like is important for our business and like where it shows up, because sometimes I think people think of like just social media posts, for instance, but there's so much like copy is so much like more than just writing a social media post. Let's talk through like some of the areas in our business that we need to pay attention to when it comes to writing like good copy.
Yes, and I love that you brought that up because I think now with the growth of social media,
Mm-hmm.
everyone thinks that you need to put all your eggs in one basket in social, and it is an important factor, but it's definitely top of funnel. So it's the first touch point that most people are going to see, but
Mm-hmm.
then what, where are they going to go to next? So I feel that aside from social media, uh, your email list is extremely important because that's something that you nurture your people with in the long run. So you need great copy in your emails so
Mm-hmm.
that people do not unsubscribe or just delete with it before even opening. So those subject lines, those that preview text, so those first couple of words people will even see in their inbox before opening, like those are the two main ones, right? Because you want them to
Yes.
open your email. And
Yes.
then the body of the copy, once they open that email, it's like, is it going to keep them engaged? So getting
Mm-hmm.
finding that fine balance with storytelling along with the value that you're bringing, that you're promising, so that you're also not misleading people. And then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, having that call to action that speaks to whatever that post is about. So if it's a welcome sequence, they are really just getting to know you. So the call to action is to like, send a reply back on XYZ so that they know
Mm-hmm.
you're a real person. And
Right.
then some nurture emails where it's like you're giving value based off whatever you're teaching, or maybe it's an inspirational post on a testimonial someone left so that people could see like, oh, Mayra worked with this person said this about Mayra.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's someone to vouch for her. I can see her more as a human. And then getting in, and then finally like those sales emails where you sprinkle them in so that they're not always in the face of that person and they get turned off.
Right.
It's more just like it's a natural one here and there where you are selling more specifically that offer that you have, and just mixing it all in so that those who are ready to buy that time, great. And then those that aren't, they're still on your list. They're still being nurtured a little bit more until they are ready for you. So copy is important in socials. Copy is important in your emails and the type of sequences you're sending. If you're sending them to a sales page where they have, been interested in what you're saying through email, now
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, I'm warm or I'm hot, right? I'm ready to buy from this person. You don't want to turn them off with a sales page that is, again, bringing up some hesitation. So
Right.
the words on that sales page needs to be crystal clear. And then the post, I'm talking about more like a launch, right? So after
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
purchase,
Yeah.
that you don't just leave them hanging, you give them a genuine thank you, maybe a feedback form, some surveys so that your next launch could be even better. And then again,
Mm-hmm.
continuing with that nurture sequence so they know like, oh, this person genuinely cares about me. Yes, I get it, right? They're a business owner, they need to make their money, but they didn't just leave me hanging high and dry once I bought from them. Like they're continuing to nurture me, and then next down the line, if something else comes up, I trust them even more, and
Right.
I'll more quickly want to buy from them.
Yeah, that is something I have preached, and I've seen it like just over and over with business owners. They want to just send emails when they want to sell something. And it's like, no, you can't
Mm-hmm.
do that, because then you just look like a person that is just constantly selling. I've always stressed, but for whatever reason, sometimes it just doesn't click. I have a former client that just, as much as I preach to her, you need to have weekly nurture emails every single week. You need to provide, value-based emails to your clients. And she's fallen off again. And it's like all the emails I see now from her are to sign up for this or sign up for that or buy this or buy that. And it's like, what happened to the nurturing your clients? Because it just gets like this feeling of like all you're doing is wanting to make money for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I completely agree. And I mean, I'm always trying to put myself in the other person's shoes, where I'm like, okay, well, if I'm that business owner and I don't have a lot of knowledge in marketing, but I have knowledge in my zone of genius of whatever I'm selling, maybe I just don't have the time and I forget, right? I'm a human, but that's where the important part of like offloading some of that work. So it's like you have to,
Yes.
as a business owner, have to sit down with yourself, reflect, and be like, I know I'm good at this. And if I had all the time in the world and all the energy in the world, maybe I could also be good at copy if I took some courses, but I can't do it all. And do I want to do it all? That's another question. So if you want to do something that brings you fulfillment and it's not copy, that's okay.
Right.
You go into that zone of genius that makes you happy and you offload the copy to a copywriter so that you are sending those weekly emails. But guess what? You didn't have to write them. It was just a matter of just automatic send and it's going. It's this free flowing structure that you have going on because you reflect it as a business owner.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it usually always comes down to time, right? Almost always comes down with a small business owner. It's not that this person doesn't care about providing value. She's a very, very heart-centered business owner that genuinely cares about helping her clients, but she's also stretched thin. And so, certain things have to give. I know for myself, like I send weekly emails, and there's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just like one more thing to do. It's like between my podcast and my weekly nurture emails and daily social content, it's like it can be overwhelming. And that's why it's so important, if there's one investment that you can make in your business, it's to help someone, like get a copywriter on your team, someone that can help you. And here's one thing I want to talk about that I know is a pain point for a lot of business owners. And you tell me, what your take is on this. But I find that a lot of business owners hesitate to hire a copywriter or invest in a copywriter because they have a belief that copywriter cannot write in their voice.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Completely. I feel that, and I say that, so with so much confidence because when I ask for feedback at the end of our time working together, one of the questions is in relation to that, like what were their false beliefs? Because it helps me, consistently tailor my messaging and what I write. And that is a pattern I've noticed with my feedback forms that they're like, I was hesitant to work with you because I wasn't sure if you could write in my voice. And I think they, especially when they don't really know the depth of marketing, they can see what I'm posting on socials and my website, how it looks, all of that. They can even see my portfolio of past copy I've written, and they read it and they make this assumption like, oh, that's not how I talk in my business. She can't help me.
Exactly.
It's like, well, so first of all, I'm like, with my website and my socials, I'm writing from me,
in
Mayra.
Your voice.
Yes. And then when you read the copy of my portfolio, I'm writing in my client's voice.
Exactly.
Of course, it's most likely not going to resonate with you because you have your own voice. So I feel like that's something I'm constantly trying to change the belief on. Like, it doesn't resonate with you because it's not you. That's why you and I are going to get on a call. You and I are going to chat about what you stand for. And then I write your copy. But yes, that is a big pain point and the false belief that needs to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if there's anything you take away from our call today, it's that don't think that a copywriter can write in your voice, because a skilled copywriter absolutely can write in your voice. Does it take time sometimes to learn your voice? Yes, definitely. It's not going to be like the first time. It takes you being willing to work with your copywriter to hone your voice, because eventually they will get it, and they will learn to write in your voice, and it will be the most heavenly gift in the world.
Yes, and I love that you brought that up, that it's not always, especially in the beginning, that first draft sent back to you. There might be things like, hey, like, can we tweak this? Or I was really thinking more along the lines of this. And that's completely normal. It's the first time working with one another, but you keep working together. The copy only gets stronger to the point where, you work with each other for so long on retainer that when that next copy project comes in, it's like you don't even have to think about it. That client and that client's audience, just like the back of your hand, to where they no longer even want to like look at the edits. They're like, I trust you, copy paste it, put it in the back end, and we're ready to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you said the magical thing. It's not just the client's voice you're writing in, it's also their audience's voice.
Yes.
So
yes,
it's kind
definitely.
of a mix between the two. So we are up against time. Today went fast. Wow.
A lot of good things to talk about.
Absolutely. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to copy. So I always close with the same question, and that is, what is your personal mojo that you bring to the world?
I think my personal mojo is just showing up as my authentic self. Like, I truly just want people to see me for me, and that I'm a human just like them, and I'm really just trying to wholeheartedly support them and help them in any way I can. I think I have always come from a place of service, given that I was a teacher in my past, and I think that's always going to be at my core, is to help others who I know are trying to change the lives of others for the better. And to me, that makes me happy, because I know, like I said, that we all struggle with different things in our lives. And I just think at the end of the day, it's just so important for me to be kind to people, because we need it. We need some more kindness.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's why we had our call today. Our talk, right?
Yes, I know. It's just the power of connection, the power of connection.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Mayra, for being here today. And I will provide ways for you to connect with Mayra in the show notes. So if you're looking for a good copywriter, especially one that's socially conscious, heart-centered, culturally relevant, please reach out to.
Thank you so much, Lori. I appreciate your time today.
Thanks. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to the On a Mission Mojo podcast. Ready to dive into more incredible stories of people on a mission? Next week, I'll return with a fresh episode to ignite your passion for creating a better world. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a glowing review, and spread the word to all your friends. Head over to onamissionbrands.com for more great episodes. Remember, the world needs your mojo, so go out there and let your brilliance shine.